I want to get to the Trudeau. I want to get to the Trudeau. Is this the one? You know, this is my feed here. Let me just get to the tweet because I'm not going to be able to find it on the incognito mode. Here we go. Justin Trudeau. Okay. Are we seeing the same thing here? StreamYard. Okay, yeah, there we are. Good. So this is the tweet that Justin Trudeau put out. And by the way, dudes, I've got my homework here. This is the tweet that Justin Trudeau put out. I'm gonna bring it up. The pattern of harassment of journalists is incredibly alarming and completely unacceptable. Oh my! I agree with Justin Trudeau. This type of behavior has no place in our society. No journalist should ever be threatened for doing their job. I agree. These are things that actually don't need to be said. Harassment doesn't need to be condemned. Because it's obvious. It's a crime. And the only people who feel the need to spontaneously and very punctually condemn harassment typically support it under other circumstances. The one question I do have here is, what do we mean by harassment, Justin Trudeau? Do we mean nasty emails that are necessarily the result of sharing your opinion and living online? I mean, is that harassment? Like when there's bots in the chat here saying death to Viva or whatever, or if I get a stupid DM or a stupid email, is that harassment? Or do we mean it in a material, actual criminal sense and not in this is what the internet is, people act like jackasses every now and again? Because if it's just, I got nasty emails, people called me, in my case, they call me all sorts of names, but if it's that, I might suggest that some people are exploiting of the harassment label to weaponize it for political purposes. Don't look, they're criticizing me for my work. They're calling me names. They have to be shut up and we have to enact more laws to combat harassment speech. I tend to think that sometimes, just sometimes, some people exploit purported harassment. They make it a bigger issue. They share a random tweet, a random email from someone who's clearly an idiot, as though it's a pattern, and as though they now deserve sympathy or protection from nasty name calling. That is unfortunately a reality of the internet. You don't want to get called names. Don't go on the internet. Getting called names, even really bad names. I've been called really bad names. I don't consider that harassment. I got called a Yahtzee the other day on Twitter. Viva Fry is a Nazi. I got called a Nazi on Twitter. I don't consider that harassment. I wouldn't. I share it for the sheer lunacy that someone would call someone who's clearly Semitic of origin, a Nazi. You may as well call me a basketball player. I mean, you may as well call me you may as well call me Michael Milliman. You may as well call me 6'8". For anybody who doesn't know, Michael Milliman was on last night. Amazing philosophical discussion. 6'8". Calling me a Yahtzee is about as absurd as calling me a 6'8" basketball player that can dunk. So, making fun is different than claiming harassment so that you can get the prime minister coming out to. Prime minister's never going to come out and defend me. I guarantee you that much. And I don't need it, regardless. So I question what is meant by harassment and what is being qualified as harassment. I don't think nasty emails, you shouldn't do it. But to come out and say that's harassment and now it's like, oh, yeah, okay. Actual harassment, actual threats, and I'll even say verbal abuse, of course, it doesn't need to be stated. But the irony in Justin Trudeau coming up, he's not speaking for all journalists. He's not even speaking for all Canadians. He's speaking for his own fully subsidized, I'll call them employees. He's not out there. First of all, the pattern of harassment of anybody is incredible. It's always alarming. It's always unacceptable. You don't need to say criminal activity, criminal behavior, harassment is unacceptable. You don't need to say that. But I question, who is Justin Trudeau talking about right now? Now, for those of you who don't know, and I got the receipts and they're coming up in about 2 seconds. Justin Trudeau, his police, and yes, by the way, I won't blame content creators for the comments of some of the people that watch or follow, but I will blame just the actions of Justin Trudeau's police force, bodyguards, on Justin Trudeau. The buck stops with the president, even if Biden forgot that he said that. The buck stops with the prime minister. Your police literally assaulted Rebel News journalists Alexa Lavoie, Drea Humphrey, and David Menzies, while you repeatedly publicly demonized Rebel News. Journalists should never be harassed or threatened, and you should resign. He won't resign. I feel stupid even saying it. You should resign. Hashtag. I feel stupid saying it, but he should resign. And you think I'm being hyperbolic? Well, I'll get into the chat about Rebel News. They're not journalists. I'll get into that chat as to how people rationalize their harassment while condemning other harassment. I'll get into that because it's sickening, it's nauseating, and it's the double standard that comes with being a hypocrite like Justin Trudeau. People, don't trust me ever. Well, trust me, but verify nonetheless. Here, first of all, let's start with what some people might call harassment, because harassment can be different depending on who says what. A 13-year-old kid calling you a B word or the C word, it's stupid, it's juvenile, but probably not harassment. The leader of a country calling you fake news, disinformation, and I have nothing more to say to the likes of you, that's polite harassment. That is what we call the political permission slip for more serious harassment. But let's just hear this. I love this. I love it in the sense that it's disgusting. This is we'll see it. Yeah, we're all looking. Okay.
Ma question est la suivante.
That's Alexa Lavoie. Some people who tolerate harassment when they like the object of its harassment will say she's not a journalist. We'll get there.
L'Israël est l'un des pays les plus vaccinés au monde. Ils sont rendus maintenant à leur 4e rappel de vaccin. Ils ne considèrent plus que ceux qui ont reçu 2.
Can we actually, let me refresh this because I don't know if you can read the text. So I'll pause and translate as we go along. Let me just do this here. It'll give me a chance to show off my French. Someone accused me of hating the French language and not supporting Quebec rights. Is that harassment? You want to live on the internet and show your opinions on the internet and engage in the most important public discourse on the internet? You have to be prepared for people calling you names without reflexively saying, they're harassing me. I want to tell people what I think, and I want to dive into the discussion, the public discussion on the most important issues of our time, but I don't want people calling me bad names. Okay, here. Play.
Ma question est la suivante.
My question is the following.
L'Israël est l'un des pays les plus vaccinés au monde.
Israel is one of the most highly vaccinated countries in the world.
Ils sont rendus maintenant à leur 4e rappel de vaccin.
They have now reached the 4th shot, the 4th callback.
Ils ne considèrent plus que ceux qui ont reçu 2 doses de vaccin sont pleinement vaccinés.
They no longer consider those who have had 2 doses of the vaccine to be fully vaccinated.
Ma question est,
My question is,
plusieurs Canadiens ne désirent pas avoir un rappel de vaccin.
many Canadians don't want to have a booster.
Allez-vous leur enlever leurs privilèges reliés au vaccinal?
Are you going to eliminate their privileges? I take issue with the word privileges, but I understand what point she's getting at. Are you going to remove their vaccine passport privileges? And
aurez-vous l'obligeance de répondre à ma question en tant que Premier ministre?
will you have the decency to answer my question in your capacity as Prime Minister?
Ou allez-vous encore diaboliser mon média?
Or are you again going to demonize our company?
J'ai partagé ma perspective sur ton organisation hier soir. J'ai plus rien à dire.
Look at the way he turns away.
Ça demande bien qui vous êtes. Merci.
That's the Prime Minister of Canada right there, people. He's the women's rights, unless they're women journalists. Women's rights, unless they're Native American ministers of justice who don't adhere to his corrupt orders. That's what people see coming from the Prime Minister. That's the political permission slip for many a bad things. But is that harassment? Is that putting on blast an entity for what some might feel to be politically justified reprisals? And by the way, what he said the other day that I couldn't find quickly enough, that the disinformation, Rebel News is disinformation. Rebel News who have been targeted for fines, physical abuse, they're disinformation. And by the way, you want to see the way his police deal with Rebel News journalists? This is David Menzies.
Get out of the road.
Huh?
Come on.
Look around.
I hit my car.
Huh? Yeah, you'd like to see that.
I wouldn't like to see that at all. It needs a lot of paperwork for me.
What are you doing? Get off me. Hey, I can. Hey, this is assault. I'm on a side. What is this? I'm on a sidewalk. I am on a sidewalk. What is this? You cannot touch me. No Russian word. Hey.
Oh, he's resisting. He should just face
Are you
first.
kidding?
Face first into a
kidding?
walk.
Let's go.
Oh, you shouldn't have resisted. They just want to talk. Is this real? That's real. You could go to watch it on Rebel News. I mean, those were his personal bodyguards because he's going into a restaurant. There's a journalist with credentials. I mean, I don't know how you get credentials for an event like that. And he's with his bike on a public sidewalk or on a public road. No. But the harassment of journalists is unacceptable. The pattern of harassment is unacceptable. But don't worry, people. It doesn't stop there. I couldn't find the one of Drea Humphrey, but there's one of Drea Humphrey as well. It's not so bad because they don't slam a petite woman up against a brick wall. They just pick her up and, manhandle her and shove her off to the side because she doesn't get to ask Justin Trudeau questions. This is the one that most people have probably heard about. Justin Trudeau's RCMP accidentally discharging a pepper spray canister into the leg of accredited, identified journalist Alexa Lavoie. Oh, and people and the tolerance. This is Canada, people. And by the way, people made fun of her for crying. They took screen grabs. They took screen grabs of her face with her mascara running because it's funny. Accidentally. I don't know how you accidentally. I know you're being sarcastic. Just a tear. Oh, she shouldn't have been there. No, but this is the guy now coming out and talking about a pattern of harassment of journalists. Oh, well, okay. That's echoing. This is the guy now talking about the harassment of journalists. Let me just go back to the tweet. The Drea Humphrey one is also it's not quite as bad. The pattern of harassment of journalists is incredibly alarming and completely unacceptable. Oh, yes, it is. We agree. This type of behavior has no place in our society. Oh, yes, we agree, Justin Trudeau. No journalist should ever be threatened for doing their job. We agree, Justin Trudeau. They should also never be assaulted. And by the way, just so everybody is perfectly clear, I'm not just saying this for lip service. When I was at the Ottawa protest, people don't like it. People don't like me for doing it. I was telling one guy to stop heckling CNN. I told him I was trying to do it politely because I didn't want to embarrass the guy during a live stream. I said, don't heckle them. It's going to make everyone here look stupid. It's going to give them exactly the sound clip that they want so they can say, look how we weren't even allowed to do our job. I said, don't do it. Don't heckle. Don't harass. Leave them be. Let them speak. And then use your words to counter their words. People don't like it. Like I'm entitled to heckle them. You are. But heckling will be described as harassing. Because people are giving Rachel Gilbert the Geels, rightfully so. Now, the other thing is they deserve they can be criticized, even not nicely so. You can imagine the idea that you're going to tell people what to think, but then you don't want to hear what they think. But bottom line, this is not lip service. And in a way, I guess I'm fortunate in that I'm consistent, even if some people don't like my cowardice. I was there at the audit. I was like, stop doing it. They're going to get the clip of you doing this. They're going to, I didn't say this to the guy in so many words. I said, don't do this. Don't stop. You know what's going to happen. And what happens. They get the soundbite. They get the sound clip. And it looks like everyone there is represented and reflected by this guy who's harassing, in the heckling sense, journalists who are just there trying to do their job, which is government-sponsored propaganda. So then I replied here, but there was, I just want to go through the replies to my reply, the responses to my response, to show you just how impactful the trickle down is from the highest leader of the land. When people see Justin Trudeau publicly berating media, publicly shunning them, publicly defaming them, publicly denying that they're journalists in the first place, what do you think happens? That's called the political permission slip, people. Let me just see if some of them here. Oh, please give examples. Rebel is not a news agency. It is a propaganda-based entertainment company that is intended to spread mis- and disinformation. Oh, hey, where have I heard that before? They are a disgrace and should never be confused with news. Oh, okay, so they can be assaulted and harassed then. That is, do you understand, by the way? This is saying, Justin Trudeau, you have harassed and assaulted the media. Because set aside the word media, he has assaulted and harassed Alexa Lavoie, David Menzies, Andrea Humphrey. This person comes back and says, well, they're not media, so therefore they can be assaulted and harassed. And that is the slippery slope of moral relativism that comes with having been handed the political permission slip to assault and harass people who you say, they're not media, they're propagandists. Oh, by the way, dude, if they're propagandists, then CBC is literally propaganda, not just on steroids, but on government tax dollars. And I shouldn't say government tax dollars, citizen tax dollars. Oh, propagandists like Viva Fry. Oh, look at that. Those are not federal police, but I'm sure you know that. Wrong. Wrong. The RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the others were his private bodyguards. But people, they'll go out of their way to justify their own harassment and their own assaults because they're not, Rebel News isn't media. They're not journalists. They're just propagandist hacks. Therefore, harassment is justified. There you have it.